All right, here we go. Gabe, that's got to go away.
Okay.
We got to put that away.
I'll put it away right now.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to this Deep Balls. It's me, Brandon Rogers, but you already knew that. I got this Gabriel Gonzalez and Jonathan Hinman right here. Everyone say hello.
Up? Yep.
Ooh, we got the whole trio here. And today we're talking about a great topic, neuroses or neurosis. Which one is that, Jonathan?
Let's say neuroses.
Neuroses.
Well, neuroses, and here's the thing. It's people's tics, right? So, like, we all have little tics we do when we have anxiety, little weird things we do to avoid dismantling on the inside of our minds.
Right now.
Jonathan, what's one of your neuroses? Let's say you're at, what's a place where you're nervous, first of all? So a place that gives you anxiety, because I think that's where these things tend to happen.
The first time I considered, or the first time I looked at myself, I was like, whoa, that is a neuroses for sure.
Right.
Yeah, or whatever.
Right.
It was... I was in college when I realized something I'd been doing for years. And I did this throughout high school too. Is basically anytime I'm studying and I'm at my desk and I put the book up there or it's on a computer, either way, like I would put one knee up and just sort of like lean over that like this.
Like a monkey.
Yeah, so you guys can't see me just yet. But yeah, it's just like one knee up on your chair, maybe two knees, but your knees are just up there. You're like crumpled over and then I would just like glance at my knee and I'd be like, what the fuck are these knee hairs doing here?
Oh my God.
And because I would wear jeans and they would rub off mostly. And so these tiny little hairs would be sticking out and I'd be like, these need to go.
Wow. And so what did you do? Did you shave them off?
No, I would pluck the knee hairs. I would go get tweezers, go back to my desk and act like I would act to myself like I was going to do the work. And I'd be like, okay, good time to do this homework. Quick glance and and I would immediately be distracted. And it was totally a way of procrastination, but it was just like, I just had to get out.
I don't think I've ever heard of anything.
I've known one other person who did that.
Weird, real quick.
But it is weird. So, it's a really small, very weird thing.
I feel like they have to visualize it because I'm looking at you right now and you're kind of mocking like visualize.
Right.
You have your knee against your chest, so it's like a child, like a baby.
Yeah.
You're like, and then if you were doing homework, I could see it.
I'm like cuddling in with myself to do my homework, and then I don't want to do my homework.
And then eventually
right here.
you'll look at your knee and have a response to it, and your response was that there's hair on it.
But it's really just that I was desperate to procrastinate.
Well, that's
I think I haven't psychoanalyzed myself, but I really feel like that was it. And it was, what's strange to me about it, in particular, I think, is that it's like well, maybe this is just the nature of a neurotic tic, but like it felt like it wasn't a thing. It had no like real relationship to like, it didn't need to happen whatsoever. I just superimposed like.
But is that anxiety or was it pleasurable?
A twist.
No, I mean, just out of curiosity, because like that seems like I don't know if you were doing that because you were anxious. You were just
actually, yeah. Now I'm doubting. I'm like, damn, I don't think I've understood this thing correctly at all. Shit.
Okay, well let's
I don't understand. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Let's just come to a middle of understand.
Okay, neuroses feel good.
Gabriel says it's weird. Jonathan says it was a legit tic. Can we just meet in the middle and say it was just retarded?
Let me rephrase it, because weird might be too strong a word.
Okay,
weird
all right. Well,
I would say it's just unexpected because I'd never thought of even that was like a thought. You know.
Well, like I'm saying you're saying it's weird.
All right, cool. I did say it.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, we all have weird tics about us. I have weird tics about myself. Gabriel, I know, certainly has probably more than me.
Absolutely
and it's just part of human nature. Having a
give me something you do that's different.
Well, yes,
and
we all
bizarre
have
and hurtful.
Right.
That's how my elbow.
That's how characters are born. You make characters off of their mannerisms, their gestures, their everything, and I feel like neuroses are a big part. R is a big part of that. I don't know what the layman
neurotic tics are.
Yes. The neurotic tics are, yeah. Well, anyways, Gabriel, what's something weird that you do when you're nervous?
God. Well, let's get specific here. I don't even know.
And we know a lot, so don't lie to us.
Exactly. That's the thing.
What about when we get
direction?
when we go on tour? We always mention that when we go on tour, and like about 10 minutes before a show starts, we get really nervous, and it's weird because you're nervous that whole hour before the show starts, because that's when they open the doors and all the audience comes in. You could hear the audience coming in. It's a little scary. And probably about 10 minutes before the show starts, we've been nervous for about a good 30 minutes or so. you start to get tired. Is that
right? But usually maybe even before 10 minutes. It's like this is a neuroses, but I just feel overwhelmingly tired before performing. And this happens throughout.
Maybe.
It's before any major thing like that. Yeah, like any type of performance, I get overwhelmingly tired like an hour before it, and I need to take a nap for like 10-15 minutes.
It's weird. It's like you get so nervous to where you just you get sleepy. It's the weirdest, coldest emotion in the world,
which is unexpected because I would think that you'd be really revved up, and my response is not. I get really calm, like tired, calm, and then nervous, and then I wake up, and then when I'm doing the show, I'm awake. But
and I imagine that like that excitement leading up to it is actually exhausting excitement.
Right.
That's adrenaline, and then you're exhausted after it's
you're kind of, that's probably what it is, that you're pumping adrenaline thinking we're about to perform, but then you have another like 20 minutes to go.
Right.
And you're still pumping adrenaline, and then you start to get tired.
You don't get tired at all, right?
I get tired.
You just also you get it.
I do the same
this is
thing.
maybe not neuroses. This might be just like a physical.
Right. People like that's everyone. Everyone.
This is you describing.
Maybe
it's
that's
like I breathe in, but then I have to breathe out, and it's like I got to breathe in. Like then I do it again. I do it again all day.
One time I used to. Well, breathing is an important thing. It's a very important thing. It's a great tick. But when I was about 18 years old, I used to work at that Best Buy, and the one.
You murdered a family. We'll talk about that later.
They murdered Circuit City is what they've murdered. Because the Best Buy had better customer service, at least when I was on board. I don't know how they are now.
It's just more fun to be there.
Circuit City.
You remember Circuit City?
Now we're addressing like 5 different things that I want to talk about, but let's not.
Okay. But Circuit City is the next episode.
Circuit City.
Circuit City.
For those of you, fall.
For the 99% of you who don't know what Circuit City is, it's basically the Best Buy before Best Buy came around, except their color scheme was red, and they
Targets.
It was red and white, yeah.
Red and white, and every store looked like an outlet. I remember that. Remember the giant plugging into the parking lot, and then it turns into the store.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. Anyways,
that place it shocked everyone when that went out. Like it happened like that.
It happened like that.
Radio Shack.
Because I was a part of Best Buy, and the customer service was astounding in my checkout lane. And Circuit City just had to walk away with its tail between its legs, and
that's what happened.
That's what exactly.
I'd like to say that Brandon, you were responsible largely.
I was, but no, thank you. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the weird take. When I worked at Best Buy, the reason I bring this up is I had a supervisor. It was one of the first supervisor, like boss figures I've had in my life. And, I think I was about 2 months into working in the job. And I had long hair at the time, hair that went down to my shoulders.
Good to know.
And I used to always, it's key here because I used to brush it behind my ears every time I don't know, it was a thing I did when I got nervous. I got nervous and I would brush my hair behind my ear. And it got to a point where my boss pulled me aside, and she had to have a talk with me about doing that.
Whoa!
Can you believe that?
And she said, and she was a stout woman. Her name was Liz. I remember Liz. And
Jonathan seems to want. What's going on?
I feel like. I want to hear. I want to hear the rest of it.
I only say her name because that's how much she stuck out to me. So I still remember this woman's name.
Just for all these viewers, that's not her real name.
Well, you didn't say her last name.
I didn't say her last name.
Just look at every Liz you see suspiciously.
Every Liz you see.
It could be her.
And she said that she would nervously. She says, "Brandon, trust me, I have nervous tics too." She said, "I could tell what you're doing is a tic. When I get nervous, I tug on my pockets. I tug on my pockets. You see, and that's just something I had to teach myself to stop doing. So just be aware." So from that day on, up until I got all my hair cut off, I was always so aware of every time I brushed my hair behind my ears. And
wow.
I didn't even realize I was doing it. And once I became aware of it, I was like, fuck, I do it only when I'm in, like when I go to a party or places where I'm nervous. Can
I ask you a question?
No,
sorry.
John,
sorry. We have so much to say.
But
how much of that, if any, of her criticism of you doing that was because it was too femme for the time?
No, she was a lesbian and she had very short hair, so I don't think.
Okay,
I think in terms of
I'm erasing all these thoughts.
Yeah, she okay. Let me just paint a picture.
Can we go the other way just so we have a better conversation?
Here we go. Here's what Liz looked like, so I could put all the rumors to bed. She was a short, fat, 20-something-year-old Latina woman with short hair, and she was very open about her lesbianism in her life. And she must have known I was queer from a mile away. She had to have been able to tell. But I think I think it just annoyed her. I think just seeing me do it all the time, she seemed annoyed by it.
Right. I want to see you at your fastest.
You know, that's my whole thing. So my visualization is, okay, is it the one time when you're walking in at the beginning of a conversation that you do it, or are you literally punctuating all of your sentences with it?
She would watch us. She would watch us as we're, because I worked in the front lanes, so my only job there was to ring up people, all day. And so she would stand and walk by the lanes and just watch us do our jobs, and she would just monitor us. And I know, like, it was just something that she saw me do a lot.
Okay.
Especially whenever she was around.
Yeah.
Right. But so that was like, I think it's when I think of me having a nervous tic, I think of just stuff like that. Like I might not have the hair to brush behind my ears, but I have other things that I do now that I'm very aware of.
That you brush behind things that aren't ears either.
Well, I
Imagine what you will.
Yes, I'm. That joke, Jonathan, just drove us right into a dead end.
You're like too close to home.
Nothing to bounce off of. But yeah, what I mean, is there anything?
I mean,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Pick this topic. Where did this come from?
well, I mean, because
John, hey, I'm talking about knee hairs here. I know y'all got your versions of knee hairs.
I got knee hairs.
Gabriel's perfect. He doesn't have anything wrong with
and that's
him.
what I've been saying for a while.
Sometimes
now,
when I get nervous, I play guitar and I cover myself in oil under the sun.
Goddamn right.
We need to know why.
Going on what you said, nervous. What would I do if I'm nervous? Then, I'm not sure if this is neurosis or just normal shyness. Mm-hmm. Is that? I mean, it's like,
I think part of the question here today is like, what do you consider neurosis? It's not like here's the psychiatrist's
all right. So one thing that I would say in general is in a nervous situation. Fuck, man, I don't know.
I'm going to tell you one of yours.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So
let's just do that.
I've noticed that like you neurotically manage distance in conversations. And there's nothing.
Yes, I wanted to say this because
I noticed this. Like, for all you listeners ever talking to Gabe, if you get within like 6 feet, he's going to make that 10.
Right.
Right.
That's in it, and I really wish that I had more. I don't know what's wrong with it, but for some reason I don't like other people hearing what I'm talking about. If I'm not talking to you, I don't want you to hear what I'm saying.
You don't want to be overheard.
I do not.
He doesn't want anyone. You don't want anyone that you're not addressing to hear you.
And this goes, and you're going to kill me later for saying this, but this goes for every time I'm in an elevator with Gabriel. There's like almost a code of, I mean, I know just because I know him so well, I don't talk to Gabriel when we're in an elevator, but it took me the hard way to figure that out because every time I was talking to Gabriel in an elevator, I thought he just hated me because he was like, shut up.
Give him a dirty look.
Like, give me a dirty look.
Get it?
Yeah.
Get it.
But you start off as the asshole because it's like you're doing something Gabe doesn't want you to do. And you're like,
what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? But because in an elevator, if you cannot have the quietest conversation without being overheard.
Because think about it. For example, in an elevator, you're very confined. So no matter what, the person's going to hear you. If you're having a conversation, no matter what, what do you?
Right, it's that moment where you're like, and that's what I told her. I was like, I can't believe someone comes in, you're like,
and here's what, and this might be once again coming from this all probably self-projection stuff. I oftentimes find myself very weirded out by other people's conversation, and it's probably because I don't have context, I don't have any relationship to it. So it's like I'll just hear very bits, and you never sound like. I never get it. I'm always just like, what? And I don't. I hate
Jesus. I would hate someone to think what I'm thinking about this person's conversation about me.
Interesting you say that because I project my opinions on how people think of me. So, for instance, whenever I walk around anywhere, I think whenever I think people are staring at me, I know what I would be thinking if I saw me the way that I think I look. Right? Maybe I don't look like that, but if I truly did look the way that I think I look, I would be staring at me thinking this. So when these people are staring at me, they must be thinking that. And that is true projection. And we're all guilty of it. In fact, if you're not guilty of it, you're fucking retard because it's just like,
think about this.
No, but that's a neurotic thing about you.
We all suffer. Let me backtrack really quick. We all suffer from it to an extent.
Yes.
I will proudly come forward and admit that I suffer. I didn't know if this was considered a neurotic thing, but I do suffer almost delusional. Like I have a fictitious version. I'm going to hate myself for saying this probably later, but fuck it. I don't listen to all these episodes all the way through just because I hate hearing myself. So I don't have to hear this later. I have almost a fictitious version of every person I know in my head. And when, I live by myself, and when I wake up in the morning, I think of all the deadlines and all of the fictitious people in my mind. Like it's almost like people are harder on me or expect more of me than they probably actually do in real life. And that's definitely a lot of self-projection, because I especially now more than ever, expect more from me every day. And if I don't meet the goals that I set, then I just start to, and so like everyone in my mind, is like coming down on me. And like, Rachel, my manager, she like in my mind, I'm like, fuck, I need to get this to her. I need to get this to her. She hates going to hate me. And then I'll talk to her on the phone later, and then everything's fine. And I'm like, well, that like,
yeah, what the hell was I?
Right. So I have this constant, almost delusional pressure from everyone around me that doesn't exist, like 75% of the time. It's just not there.
Mm-hmm. It's a great example of how you feel about yourself, and you just superimposing that over everyone else, just being like, and projecting that onto everyone else.
So you feel that people are going down on you.
You're like, they must feel the way that I feel about me.
Right. And then what's interesting is I have a little bit of an opposite thing where I feel like people think good things. I mean, I don't believe in that. And it's not like people are like saying I'm doing the most that I can do. Everyone, it's not like, but that people in general have better thoughts of me than I actually am. That actually messes my mind.
And I can't tell which one is worse.
But are these neuroses? Or are these just insecurities? Are these?
It can be a lot of things. I think a lot of them are like driven by I'd say that my knee hair one's driven by procrastination. It's both.
Oh my God. Well, if we're talking about if we're talking about that, then God, I act like a moron when I go to a party or a club, or there's anyone around. When I get nervous, I don't know how to act. I'm always so in my element. Everywhere I go, I'm on a podcast that I host. I'm in a video that I'm starring in that I wrote. I'm delivering a speech that I wrote. I'm doing an interview about myself. Like everywhere I go, I'm pretty much in my element. I'm in some sense of my own element. And when I go to a party or a club, because I live in my own element more than the average person on this planet does. And so like when I go to a party now, and it's the one time out of the week, or I go to a nightclub, it's the one time out of the week where I'm truly not in my element. And the general mood of the room is not dependent on my thoughts or feelings, or I don't have control of as much as I normally would, doing what I do. And I get so nervous, and I get so, I have a hard time talking to people because I'm not in control. And I feel like, I just start to, have this and then I'm not myself. So if you ever see me at a club or at a party, I'm usually not myself unless it's...
Do you think that was always there though? Because I'm with you up to like, you do really, you're in your element, and I understand that logic of it. But were you ever, and this is my question, were you ever insecure? Like, were you like this a little bit before?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? When I was 19 years old, I would throw parties at my mom's house when they weren't home. Like I would, and I know she's probably...
And your interaction with it was different?
Throwing it?
I loved going to parties all the time. I loved being around people I didn't know, and I would generally try and be sort of the fool of the night, or the person that people would talk about. I shut down. And I would dress up. I'd look nice when I'd go out, and I would enjoy the whole ritual of going out and being seen in what I wore, what I took time to put together. Like I miss that. Now when I go out, I put on jeans and a t-shirt, and I kind of hope that I hope I run into a fan, because then there's no having to break the ice and talk to them. It's like, oh, they already know me. And that usually, like nowadays, that does happen more than not. Like if I go out, let's say on a Friday night, and I go to like 2 or 3 bars, odds are I'm going to meet someone. They're going to introduce me to their friends who may or may not know me. And then so that's easy for me, because then I don't have to introduce myself. I don't have to.
That's interesting too, and I could totally see how that would change your relationship with people, like not going out and all that.
Yeah, and like before,
like you don't need to be the jester anymore, because they already see you as as someone,
but that was how you got in.
It's like now you're part of the court or whatever.
And
but
you know what?
Am I going way too medieval?
Jester turned advisor.
I just want to say one other thing. Now that you mention it, I completely forgot about this. When I was in college, I used to be one of the most whenever we go to parties, everyone would expect me to do these prank calls. I was very well known for my prank calls. I'm not kidding.
We got to do some of those.
And I would do these voices. So that's when I first started doing character work. Was I'd like come up with, I had like 3 or 4 different characters I would do. And like if no one knew who I was at these parties, because everyone knew everyone in Livermore, but if people didn't know who I was, then my friends would be like, yo, you got to hear this guy. You got to hear this guy. Okay, call Taco Bell. I'm going to do a star 67 so they wouldn't get the number. And we would call them, and and everyone at the party would be quiet, and I would do my prank call, and I would live to be the center of attention at a party. Now it's like, I don't have that thrive to be the center of attention. So when I go to a party, like I'm no longer trying to be this vamped up version of myself, being a showman in front of everyone. Now it's just like I'm myself. So when I go to bar, which I don't think is very exciting. So when I go to a bar or a club, I don't feel like there's even worth drumming up the allure I felt like creating back when I used to party a lot. And so it is, going out and having a good time is not as much of a, like I'm burning my flame harder in the YouTube world. Like I feel that element when I go up on stage to receive an award, when I go up on stage to on a panel, or when I go, that's when I feel that thrill, is like when I'm among my peers in the industry. But when I go to parties and bars and clubs, I just don't feel that joy anymore. And so, I develop weird tics when I go out. Like I'm,
See, this is though going back to that idea. So you're saying now you're going to bars and clubs, you're not enjoying it, but then you're associating the other thing. I think the only reason why maybe you're not liking the bar scene has nothing to do necessarily, completely at least, with becoming more successful and people recognizing, but the scene is now not interesting.
Kind of. That's a huge element to it. It's
like bars are less interesting to me.
And the only reason why I'm thinking that is because when I heard how you're feeling, I feel very similar, but I'm not having that level at all of so it's like, I think it's just as we get older, man. And then it's interesting that the thing that's interesting you is because it's fresh and new.
Right.
But in 10 years from now, if you were going to the same scenes that are interesting to you now, I wonder if that'll be the case. Like if you were to go to these events or whatever, would you care? I don't know if you will.
Like when you're 40, you're like, I'm going to another one of these.
Yeah, another.
I think it's in my nature. I think it's in my nature to always find something to look forward to.
Absolutely. I hope at least that's what we all
that's what we all hope for. Yeah, the pursuit of happiness.
That often doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that I think right now, I am kind of over I'm not as into going out to clubs as I used to be. I still do it and I still enjoy it, but I'm not as excited to. And ever since I was a kid, I've always been a showman. Like when I was a little kid and my family would come over for Thanksgiving or Christmas, I would get up on the couch in front of everyone and like perform a scene. Or I remember I used to paint all the time so I could show my grandparents and my aunts and uncles what I painted, and I liked the applause.
I need to know something. Did they ever? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. I can see this image. Mm-hmm. Did they support you without having to do that? Like, so for example, if you did something good that was natural, like let's say at school or something, would they on their own be like, "Good job, Brandon," blah, blah, or did you have to perform to get a reaction out of them?
I mean, they would say good job when I did stuff that I wasn't into. Like when I got good grades on something, like on a homework assignment that I didn't love, they would say good job. And that didn't mean very much to me because I didn't enjoy doing the homework assignment. Imagine like if your parents said, go outside and shovel rocks, and then you come inside and they go, great job. Are you really going to be that excited that they pat you on the back for that? No, I wanted them to be excited for something that I was also excited about. I liked making like comic books and fan fiction and stuff like that. And they would also be excited about those things, to the point where I would only try and impress them with that. And I got horrible grades because literally all I would do is just draw and write. And whenever I got grounded, my mom would have to like take away everything, and she would take away all my pens and papers and stuff. And I wasn't allowed to like do anything like that.
What a strange,
it was a very weird punishment.
Like, but take away your ability to express yourself.
But it was effective. It was effective because most parents, you have to stay inside, and like I loved staying inside. Oh well, you have to go to your room. Great, I love being in my room.
Like you have to go play hopscotch.
Right. She couldn't force me to be active either, so it's like that was the only way she could think of to punish me. But anyways, where were we going with this? Why did I?
The reason why I asked that was specifically because I'm trying. Because I find myself oftentimes like. The only way I can relate to things, I know the empathy, right?
Yeah.
Like empathy is that ability to,
Right.
I oftentimes like wonder if I even have it, because I listen to things and I try to like relate it back to how I've been in the world, and then I'm like, well, then in contrast to what I've experienced, what he's telling, and then I try to find like a way of understanding. And so when I was listening to that, I was wondering like, okay, well, did they not give, like, you know, did you feel like you had to perform so that you would get a good reaction? But it sounds to me like they were giving you good when you didn't want it, and also good when you did. So that was you mainly wanting to perform.
I think so.
Right.
And in my life,
I didn't do it because
like you could have gotten it in many ways.
You didn't.
They were willing to give it to you for more than one thing.
More than one thing.
Right. And
So then I look at in my reality, and then I was like, well, then how did I have it? And then and I thought, mine were also very loving. And once again, as a child, very uncomfortable with that. Like, you know, if somebody said, "Oh, you're a cute kid," I would be very uncomfortable with that. If somebody said I was good at anything, baseball or you know, school, or just like doing things or whatever, I always felt like don't give me any praise, because it made me uncomfortable, because it was like,
it's interesting. I felt that too.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I not only wanted praise, but I wanted genuine praise. And I was a smart kid. I knew what was genuine praise and what was bullshit. I remember when I was 5 years old, I drew a picture of, it was some monster from the Power Rangers that I really thought looked cool and creepy, and I drew him. And I gave it to my parents, and I remember giving the drawing to them and saying, "Tell me what that is. Who is that?" And I wanted to see if they would recognize like what the drawing was. And when they recognized it and they told me, they were like, "Oh yeah." But then, because they would say, "Oh," because you know, a parent goes, "Oh, what's this?" And the kid explains it. Even as a little kid, I knew I want them to tell me, I want them to recognize what the picture is and tell me that it's good, and me not saying anything. I just want to hear what their thoughts were. And that's like, I think, a pretty deep thought. Like if a 5-year-old today had thoughts,
right.
You know, like
I hear this and I'm having so many.
It's the Mona Lisa. You're full of shit, mom and dad.
Yeah, right.
Like I just want, and sometimes they would get it and sometimes not. But if they did guess right what the picture was, because I was still at that age where it's like it's hard to draw as a kid. You know, it's like it's hard to make something that looks like what it is. So if I drew something, whether it was the house, I would draw pictures of like the cars that we had, just anything that was familiar that I knew the parents would get. I would give them the picture and I would make them tell me what they saw, and like if it was what I was supposed to be. You know, that's
an interesting way of like being mean to yourself. Like, I'm not good enough until they like. It's not enough for me to make this. It's not enough for my parents to say that they like it or that it's good. It's like, I'm going to test you on your ability, on the accuracy of your praise, and I'm not going to take in this positivity unless you pass another test.
Right.
It's like, wow, why are you doing that to yourself? And it's interesting. Just that's what
it's
happened.
Interesting about motivating factors too, because it seems like this is a huge motivating factor of probably a pattern that was for the rest of your life. Because it seems like you're doing something, making something, so that other people can validate it through their view of it, which I find interesting. Because it's like, once again, going back to how I live, my reality, mine was always like I always felt very good about whatever I produce from my heart. I always feel good about, and it's my thing is like, other people don't see it. Whether they see it or not, it's unfortunate, but I always believe, like, I don't, that performing process. So then maybe that's why I like don't drive myself in certain aspects the way you do. Because like that need for that approval or that reaction is much different than someone who just does it and then doesn't need it.
Yeah, no, you're definitely on the head. I never not felt like the need for other people's approval, but it's definitely like a drug. I remember as a kid I don't know when the first time I ever got big praise for anything, but it must have felt amazing, because that's always been something I've strived to do.
Such a primal thing.
It is.
I wonder, what was that? Do you ever want? Like, can you even imagine?
My parents have different stories on when the first time I was a showman. My mom will say something, my dad will say something else, my aunts and uncles will say another thing. Apparently,
when I was a showman,
when I was a little kid, I always the first time I ever cracked a joke, and I distinctly remember this. I was 3 years old. It's the first memory I have. I was like 3, about 3 years old. And I was at a party. My aunt was friends with these.
Schmoozing.
Yeah. Right. I was double fisting it. Yeah. I was at a party. My aunt was friends with these very like fancy art dealers, and this was back in like 1991, I want to say. Ooh. So like very like picture like fancy art dealers. Picture like a coked up apartment, like high end like 90s.
Nice.
Yeah.
You get the image of the apartment that this is, and there's art everywhere, like abstract sculptures and stuff, and there's people just enjoying cocktails and walking around. And my aunt introduces me to her friend, the art dealer, And he was like, oh, he goes, well, look at this vase. And he goes, you're probably used to toys, but look at this vase. And he says, isn't this beautiful? And it was this very expensive vase. And he wanted me to take a picture with it. I was only 3 years old, like, so he thought it was like cool, me like next to this.
He's like, I'm going to give a gift to this kid.
And then he's like, watch what this does. And he put his mouth up to the vase, and he was like, boom, or he made a sound into he was like, boom, 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 and it made an echo. He says, you try it. And then I put my mouth right up to the vase, and I inhaled, and then I just looked around the room, and then everyone laughed because I never made the sound. And I remember, and I was 3 years old, and I remember hearing everyone laugh, and I knew what I was doing, and I knew that they thought I was just being a stupid little kid, and I see he's not making the sound. But I just remember that reaction. And when I bring it up to like my aunt to this day, she was like, you remember that? You were like a toddler. And yeah, that's like the first thing I remember is making the room laugh because I didn't make the sound into the vase. And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the first thing I can remember, but I could have done that other times beforehand. I could have tried making other people laugh when I was younger. That's why I think that, and I will not say what substances I've done in my adult life, but is a substance that really helped me come to the realization in the recent couple years that the sense of humor is not something we come to learn, but it's something that we're born with. And I think that...
well, yeah, I was saying that too.
It in itself is a coping mechanism, I think. When you're nervous, I think a sense of humor... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was almost going to cut you off. No, when I have family, they have children or babies and stuff, and then
babies laugh,
and then my sister, she sorry, because I feel weird. I was like, do I talk about my sister?
Do I have a family? There are 30 people in the story, and I'm going to need to pause and think about whether.
No, I'm allowed to say that. Yeah, I'm an uncle, and then as I've been watching little bits of her reality, I mean, she's like 6 months old now, maybe. Humor was one of the first things that she developed. Was she was giggling and laughing. That was first things. So I was like, that's interesting. That a human being needs that sense of humor.
I think it's part of your soul. I don't know what we're made out of, but you're whatever that bit is that you like. You don't learn.
And how come all the traumatized people are funny?
Right.
I mean,
sorry, go on.
No. I was just gonna say. I just believe that, like, as a kid, I think some of us just grab onto it. And just love that. I just remember as a kid, I loved to laugh.
But what are they thinking? It's like, how do they know that when you make a silly face, it's funny? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. There's no explanation, really. It's like, how do we know to find something humorous?
Right.
And when does it cross the line between, oh, this is a comfortable moment to this is a funny moment?
And like, this baby is neurotic as fuck. It's using its laughter to pinch the fact that it's horrible.
I remember ever since then, I've always... Okay, I just want to say something. I've always used humor as a very neurotic way to...
I could agree with that.
Whenever I'm in you guys know, even when I get into a pickle, I'm still mocking it, or I'm still trying to make a punchline. Mm-hmm. When I was 16 years old. I was applying for my first job at a Safeway grocery store, and oh my God, I was so nervous filling out the application. It was my first application I've ever filled out. I walked into the store and I asked them for the application. I'm writing it, and I had no idea what it was like to get a job. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. In fact, this is the first time I've ever told this story because I'm so embarrassed by what I wrote, but I thought it would be funny. I thought like if I could make them laugh,
right,
then they know that I'm a chill guy. I mean, I was applying to be a fucking bagger. What qualifications are they wanting me to seriously listen?
Shut up and
if you have a spot, just hire me.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So I the intention was that the application that was the intention of the application was just like I legitimately filled out my age and my social and all that stuff. Just the other things like how many hours do you want to work a week? And I was like 100. And then they're like, who's your reference? And like, my mommy, and like, or something like that. I literally wrote my mommy, MOMMY. I wrote, and then I put her number, and like, I just
guy's ready to work here.
Right. And I was just like, I didn't take the application seriously.
Well, now though, as an adult, like, do you recognize how scary that would be to someone reading that and being like, I'm going to give you a few reasons why this is not a good idea.
I recognized it probably like the day after. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck did I write? So I handed in the application, and it was the weirdest meeting because I hand in the application as I walk into the meeting. So they're reading over the application in front of me. and they're like, well, good luck with your like they immediately.
Right. It's like, you're not hired.
Yeah,
Wow.
but in most situations like that, like I try to be like, I went into the hospital one time because I thought I was having heart problems, and I vlogged the entire thing. It was one of like the first vlogs I ever did, and I thought it'd be silly to like, if I go down filming this.
That's one of the definitions of neurotic that we looked up. It's like what kind of symptoms
in
did
an
you have?
uncomfortable
or
moment?
did you make those up?
You go into the hospital and you feel the need to go on.
No, I don't know. I think I got a lot of it from my dad. My dad he would be funny in like the most dark times. It still is. Like even when things get really serious and really dark, my dad will find a way to make humor out of it or make fun of it.
That's amazing.
While everyone looks at him like,
yeah, everyone calls the cops, but he is
my aunt, she's just a few years younger than him, so they grew up together, and she's so used to him. Like, she's almost at a point where my dad can just crack a joke and she just knows it. Like, they just kind of hit you and bounce off. Like, you're so used to it. But I think, that's where I get it from. I think I just love to laugh at everything that scares me.
Interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of your fans and listeners feel that way too. It's like that matches the tone of Brandon Rogers videos,
Yeah,
I some people have bigger tics than others or different tics, As
I was listening to that, I realized another one. So I was really glad that you stopped giving too much description of your situation, of why you went to the hospital. You know this thing.
Oh,
and
my
you've seen
God.
This is a big
one for you.
And I don't think people don't imagine this because they can't relate. And no matter what I say right now, you're not going to understand it. But for me, when I hear someone give gruesome details of something, whether it's like, I had to go to the hospital and do a blood transfer because I'm low on sugar, I have diabetes, and I was had to put in pills. When I hear people talk about it, I get physically nauseous. Like, it's not nauseous
kidding.
as like grossed out, you horrible. No, because what happens with me is I start to imagine what they're talking about, and as if it were happening to me. So when they say, "Oh, I have a low blood sugar and I'm starting to faint, and I had to get penicillin," to me that's horrific because I'm like, "Oh, I start to feel it."
He's not kidding. If I go to the doctor and so much as get a shot, or even just when I went to his,
just don't talk to me. I can watch you get the shot. Just don't talk to me about it. Sorry.
I even was telling you about when I went to your uncle. Gabriel's uncle is a dentist that I go to, and he has a massive, almost a comically large needle that he uses to inject the Novocaine or whatever the fuck is going in my mouth.
Right.
And Gabriel was talking, and then I came after I visited his uncle. I went to Gabriel and I was like, "Oh yeah, your uncle's great," but he had this big needle. And when I mentioned the needle, or just anytime I've mentioned getting a shot, but
it could be anything.
Gabriel will flip out, and he will. You cannot talk about even
readjust his distance to speaker.
Can I just say we can't even say the word blood around Gabriel.
You can say it, but what you cannot say is a description of what is happening. So, for example, my I feel
blood was flowing out. It was just like
flowing out of my
everywhere.
Pulsating finger. I feel the finger pulsating. Right now, it's weird because I don't feel it.
So what are you? And this is something I've actually wanted to ask for a long time, and I'm glad I've waited for the. I don't know why I haven't asked this, but like, elephant in the room. You cannot deal with needles. Eventually, we all get old. We all get to a point where
I thought about this
and eventually, whatever surgery, whatever it is that you might need one day, we don't know. What will you do then?
I don't. No, and I've thought about this a lot. I'm very afraid of it.
You'll get over
Do you know what this is where I get like crazy talk in my mind. It's almost like, do I know that this is going to happen? This is so metaphysical.
No, let's do it.
But like, I fear like I know somewhere in my subconscious that the way I've treated my body, the way I live my life, that if I don't get taken out by some car crash or some plane, like
some instant kill,
I'm going to die through disease. And it's going to be kind of scary. And they're going to put me through a lot of stuff. And when I hear this shit, it's just like, is this what awaits me? I'm afraid that this is going to happen to me. That's probably, and I thought about it, man, because it's like, I'm going to get old. And if I get old, I'm going to have to deal dramatically with all these things. And I don't know if I can psychologically at the moment take it. I'm afraid of it.
Yeah.
And that's a neuroses thing, right?
Yeah. I have a friend. Let's just call her, Mukhtar. after that Uber driver that we had in what the fuck, San Jose last week. Mukhtar. What a great name.
Mukhtar.
It was awesome.
And what was the last name? There was a place that I saw where I'm like, that's a perfect last name for it. It was Mukhtar. Oh fuck! What was the place that we saw? There was a place we were driving by, and it was like Penny Packer. Penny Packer? Is that what it was? Penny Packer? Mukhtar Penny Packer. What a name that is. Oh my god. Anyways, Mukhtar. So we're gonna call her Mukhtar. And who is Mukhtar? Why did I bring up? Who's this code name for?
I don't know.
Someone Gabe was saying about blood and being sensitive
and
to
you
it.
were talking about something.
Reminded you of someone that shall remain named Mukhtar.
Oh yes. So Mukhtar. She is a friend of mine that I went to college with, and she had same thing with you, Gabriel, an intense phobia of needles, and just could not. And she's also allergic to peanuts. And so, as you know, if you go into anaphylactic shock, you need to stab yourself in a meaty part of your leg. Yeah, even Gabriel's freaking out right now just for me saying. I just said the word stab, and he starts putting his hands up and backing away.
This sounds bad, huh?
Well, okay. So listen. I gotta tell you. So she said that she's so afraid of needles that she said if she goes into anaphylactic shock, she would just die. She said she doesn't bring her anaphylactic kit with her. She doesn't do it. She's like, I will die.
Let's put it to the test because
I think we're going to need some proof of this.
I'll tell you what. As much as uncomfortable as I am to hear and might faint, whatever, I'll still try to stay alive in the future. I hope.
You know what? The thing about them,
I'll take the shot. I'll just really get it.
And feel free to take off your headphones if you wish for this. But the thing about needles is that they're never as bad as I think they are. And when I get one, unless it's if anyone is listening to this and you are a new nurse, okay, you really really practice on some shit, because I've had some new nurses. I've had some. Gabriel's freaking out. But Gabriel, I'm gonna put my blinders up. I'm gonna put a hand over this side of my face so you don't distract me while I say this. I gotta close your eyes.
Don't listen to this.
I had a nurse who was very new and did not know how to find a vein, insert it in the vein, did not know how to, and it was the most painful needle experience in my life. Please, if you are a new nurse or someone who doesn't have very much experience, it's October, go and, or November maybe when this is out, I don't know, but go and find yourself a gourd and practice on a gourd or something other than a human being, because that's...
Or get your stabbing out there.
Oh my God, just really know what you're doing. Like, practice on yourself.
I feel really weird. I just want to throw this out there, because now it's like, I don't want to make it sound like every day these type of conversations, because now it's going to sound like I'm always just like, oh, and then freaking out and going uncomfortable. But... Rarely do people really talk about. Yeah. I mean, unless you're like one of those like dominatrix people, or this is part of your life, like pain, suffering. But in general, people don't talk about it. So this little this little neuroses or whatever that I have, it only comes out very rarely.
Yeah.
I'll just say.
But when it happens, it's very aware. And then and just like being quiet around other people, or like, like I have to keep it down or whatever, I explain this to people. I try to, at least, like, I'm aware that I'm doing this to you.
And that's familiar enough that it's a quick explanation. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just like queasy about blood or queasy about gore.
But it's not you, it's me. It's like I'm on.
That's interesting.
Oh my God, I know.
Why these things happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have more than I'm probably listing here today. Like I have to almost be in the
we all
moment.
have like thousands. Like so many are in the subconscious.
Do you guys ever have panic attacks, like, or anxiety? I shouldn't say panic attacks, like just anxiety surges when you're just out.
That was when I was like, I have a thing. This is definitely a neurotic tic, and I'm working on it, and it's getting a lot better. But like as I go to bed, and I didn't even realize I did this for like my whole life, is that like I'll jump back to like 6 years ago. 6 years ago is probably when this was at its peak, where I would just obsessively go over everything wrong that I've ever done, things I regret, revisiting over like things that I'd revisited every night, even for years and years and years. And I would like be laying there with my eyes closed, my eyes would get extra tight, and then I'd be like,
oh gosh.
And I realized eventually, like for years I've been like making sounds and not even thinking about it, but like I can like hear like every like negative thing I'm saying to myself as I'm trying to fall asleep, and it like, whoa, it's and I didn't even realize it was happening.
I mean, I don't know if you have an example you could share.
Or like I mean, like even something like in high school, like one of the first times I got drunk, I like lay down and was like listening to the Killers, Mr. Brightside.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
and it was just like, oh my gosh, this song was like so good, and like basically like being emotional for show in a way, and realizing that that's what's happening. It's one of the first times I've ever been drunk. We all been done dumb fucking things, and then just like wincing at that. And it's just like, get over it. That was a long time ago. It's fine, but still, like, that would be a flash, just a flash, something like that, and all these things. And it's like, I didn't even realize that that's the way I'm treating myself as I'm trying to go to sleep.
More interesting is because what you describe is something. Once again, this is where I go like back to. You see, I relate everything to back to myself.
I mean,
because it's how I hear it. It's like I hear your
things
story.
resonate with you.
Your thing sounds exactly familiar with what I've had before, where I do something the night before, and then I'll get up and I'll remember what we did, and I'll go into like a moment of like, holy shit, what did I do? And I'll have a physical reaction to it where I wince. I don't make a sound, but I wince, where I have a sudden memory of something that I said or did, and I'm just, ooh, that. Ooh.
Oh, yes, I do that too, actually.
All right, but so we all do it then, apparently. But
I go,
the difference between
exactly.
The difference between from what it sounds like me and you and what Jonathan is describing is that years later he's having the thought of, dude, I have it the day after, maybe a few days after.
Likewise, it fizzles out after a few days.
Not a
for
few
me.
Years.
When I go to for instance, if we go on tour and there was a part of the show that I fucked up, and I'll replay that in my head while I'm going to sleep or just whatever, and I will find myself like outwardly vocalizing, no, right. No. Why did I say? Why did I fuck this up?
Right.
But it's never gotten to a point where I've had an outburst like that in public. I think ultimately I have a last line of defense mentally that keeps me from acting that out when I shouldn't be, at a store or something. But Jonathan, the years ago, my shit phases out after a few days.
Just to be clear, like it's way better, and it was never like I don't know. I think it sounds worse than it is, but it did happen like a lot.
Yeah.
And one thing that's like that I basically like do now is do just a little bit of self-meditation where you just like, you have to consciously let that go, and it takes a long time you can't just like, it doesn't happen like that. You have to say like, hey, that's not okay. And I used to justify it hard by saying that like, that I deserve to be going over these things that haunt me. Otherwise, because that's what's making me change. It's like, no, I should obsess over this. Like anytime I would have a whiff of being in touch with my subconscious like that, I'd be like, no, you leave it there. It should be there, because otherwise you might do the same thing. And it's
there might be a mix of both, though. There might be a mix of right. You have to let it go.
But I think you've paid. I think you got the lesson. Just move on with your life.
That's it. Because there's a certain point where it's like, yeah, you're right. The suffering and the questioning is part of the understanding. And there are people who don't suffer, don't question, and therefore don't get the growth. But then if you indulge in it,
right,
and now you're just living in that sadness.
That's a hard line to draw.
Oh
like, what am I? I'm not sure if I'm indulged or if it's correct. And it's like, only later do you realize where you were on that spectrum, and you're like, you'd be surprised to be like, I was way over.
I think literally the moment you have the better idea or the healthy thought, and the moment you prolong it is the it could be a day after, but you have 5 years of sadness. You knew the second day that the positive way to do this and deal with it was there.
Exactly, and that's the key. And it always blows my mind. I think it's just like it's as simple as positivity.
Right.
Like that's the very simple idea, but it's like you have to in that moment try to love yourself and try to love other people and make the decision that feels motivated by that rather than like by law.
Now, see, the loving other people part, that's where I fall short.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. I think that's true. It's easy to become delusional and self-hating and come up with all these reasons why you're not this or not that. But you know what? We're all worth a little something.
It's true.
Sometimes.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Don't you forget it, guys.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any
Except
more.
you over there.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I love you.
No, Jonathan's a freak.
Thanks.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I was looking at him, but I was actually referring to the imaginary people. But anyway,
but now we know what Brandon thinks.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
I really don't have any other nervous tics. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, but they rarely ever manifest into physical, oddities that I do.
You want to know one of mine?
Yes.
Okay. So in truth, the knee hair one was the first one that I ever consciously noticed about myself, but it evolved probably like 5 years ago when I was visiting my grandpa, and I saw he had crazy ear hairs sticking out of his ears, and I was just like, now those hairs need to go. And it just like, immediately was like, and there's this moment, no one else knew it. Like we're sitting around a table, round table, like 10 people, and he's there and I'm just like looking at him and I just go up and touch my own hairs and no one's in this moment but me. And I just like touch my hairs and I'm like, these spiky little motherfuckers gotta get plucked.
My God.
So 2 comments on that. One is you're right, but second, you have your hair, bro.
Oh, just a little bit, but
too young for that shit.
You know what I also instantly realized it was to me? I was like, I'm doing this anyway because one, it's like some general cosmetic stuff that I'm fine keeping up with, don't feel like it's crazy, but also I realized that it's like I'm fighting old age with this. Like this is me resisting old age. Like if my grandpa has ear hairs like that, I cannot have ear hairs like that to any degree.
It's coming.
And I realized
it's a deeper meaning. You don't want to get old.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, but it was one that I felt instantly, but was not like, but you should stop that or like accept that. I was like,
so
nope.
Today you still wander around the ears every now and again.
On occasion, I just go up and I'm like,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh no, nothing wrong with it. It's just interesting.
Do any of you guys ever play with your buttholes when you're nervous?
You're playing with your butthole right now. You guys can't see it, but Brandon, it's
no
really
one else. No one else does that. No one else plays with it. You guys don't. I don't do it. I think it's weird if people do it. If anyone's listening to this and you play with your butthole when you're nervous, that's weird, man.
Do you want you?
Stop doing this. Stop taking it out, man. Is it in? Oh my God, it's in.
Don't get in there.
Don't get in there. Don't even play with it. Don't even knock.
Unless it helps.
Unless it helps your neurotic tendencies. Well, you guys, I'm feeling very. I feel like I've benefited therapeutically from this immensely. I feel like a new man.
Cancel all your therapy appointments. Just listen to this episode again.
I will no longer go to therapy.
Did we solve a thing?
I think we
solved that my friends are worse off than me.
Right.
I'm not that bad.
If we're going to close it out, then one thing is what he said, just to remind, there was a solution to these neuroses. Like, it doesn't mean that we have these and there's no solution. He said that one of them was meditation before sleep. I personally can't do it. I can do it. There's nothing we can't do.
And a variety of things.
But there's a variety of things. So it's like, just because we have these.
And if anything's hurting you guys, like, get help.
Right.
Don't be afraid to reach out and get help. It took,
And remember to masturbate. Remember.
Or does that cause more?
It causes everything amazing.
I'll
tell you what it doesn't cause. Babies and STDs.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I've had a lovely last 50 minutes or so with my co-hosts, Gabriel Gonzalez and Jonathan Hinman, from our loving home to yours. I hope you have a great night. And just remember, chill out. I'm Brandon Rogers. Good night.